everybody. I am Jay Kovach, art director for Art House Sorian Games, and I've got my extremely handy, wonderful assistant, James Hutt, who is a writer on several of the products for Tao, and Simon, sadly, I don't know Simon's last name, but Simon is here doing the tech stuff in the background, which I am eternally grateful for. Thank you, Simon. And coffee. We know it's super early, so, fuel up. I want to talk today about art portfolios. If that's what you're here for, then excellent. If that's not what you're here for, then you're lost, but it still might be interesting. So I am going to go ahead and ask Simon to open up the first portfolio. We're not going to do a big, heavy look at this portfolio, but I just want you to have something pretty to look at while I give you a few guiding kind of principles for creating a portfolio that will help get you work. Let me know when that's up, Simon. Just give me a nod. Great. So this is Anna Podedorna. She is probably the premier artist that works on Gwent. And she also does other work as well, as you can see from the Champions covers there with the kitties and a couple of magic cards. If you want to go to her portfolio site and look at it while I'm talking about the principles of good portfolios, feel free. I'm not going to go over this one. Just wanted to show you that this is what it looks like when you've kind of made it. You end up with so many good pieces that you don't really have to sort anymore, but I'm sure she still does sort out her favorites. And it just kind of goes on and on, all the amounts of work that she's done. And she still, even though she's quote unquote made it, she still upkeeps her portfolio, takes on new work, challenges herself, and makes sure she gets enough time off and rest. So it's principles that will last you throughout your life. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you're an artist and you want to make a good portfolio, the biggest thing is to never stop learning. Every piece that we take professionally or personally is a learning experience. I've had artists that have been working for 10 years or more that have worked for many companies, and I'll ask them to do, something. And for instance, say, hey, I need a figure in this background. Well, I don't really draw faces very well, but I'm going to give it a shot. And that is a learning experience. Some art directors may not have the time to walk you through and help guide you in learning that skill. I am 90% of the time not one of those people. If we're at the end of the deadline for the book that you're working on, then I'll be like, hey, I can't really, if this isn't in your wheelhouse, we're going grab somebody else who is. But most of the time, I don't mind if somebody is needing a little bit of guidance while they're learning a skill to work on one of our products, because I think that there is a lot of value in that. And I love that working relationship. And it always feels so good when we come to the end and we have something that we both love and something that the fans and the people who play the games are going to really dig. So I think it's really good. Never stop learning. Stretch yourself, which is what I was just talking about. Taking on projects that have a few things in them that you're not used to. Drawing. Take on new challenges, for sure, which has already kind of been covered. Teach what you know. So find opportunities to mentor, because when you can teach what you know, it reestablishes it in your mind. It means that you have internalized that information. You're no longer in a phase of learning. You're internalizing it. And every time you go over it and you teach somebody else, you learn something from them, but you also learn something from yourself and how to better understand your own skills and what you already know. Make sure you get paid. All of this is under the first principle, which is never stop learning. So getting paid is part of the learning experience. We all learn how to ask for enough money for the piece, figure out our personal budgets so we know how to survive. But unless it's like a really super personal project or a project for charity or, for your mom, don't charge your mom. That's bad. But make sure you're getting paid. Don't let people take advantage of your skill, because art is a very, very important skill in the entire world, not just in gaming. So if you're making a logo for somebody or anything, even if that you work out a small, what we call beer money, or you want to work for half a cheese sandwich, make sure you're getting paid. Uh, Ask a lot of questions. And the last thing under the first heading is seek mentorship and look at lots of art. I can't stress this enough. If you can seek other people to help mentor you, like I was just doing the offer of, say, you want to do some new skill, or just even somebody that you know in the community. When you go to a convention, go to Artist Alley and talk to people who you really appreciate their artwork and their skills, and see if they're into maybe hooking up and not hooking up, but I mean, if you want, but uh, getting together and creating artwork together, or maybe just having an email kind of a thread going. It's always good to join those kinds of groups. The second thing is, maybe a lot of you have heard this. It's called kill your darlings. That means sometimes we take a piece that we absolutely love more than anything, but we see that it's flawed, but we love it because we made it with our mom or our sister, or some sentimental reason why we really love it. Or maybe it was our first piece we made for a real company. um, you have to look at it objectively and get rid of all of the emotionality that you have invested into it, and look at it from an objectivity standpoint, where you're not investing in it with your emotions, because you might have to just take it out of your portfolio. It may just not be at the skill level you are anymore, or whatever the reason. Um, know your audience. So don't do everything. You are part of your audience. When you first start out, you're kind of reaching out, you're kind of taking on projects, and you're doing everything, right? I'm going to do logos, I'm going to do a figure study, I'm going to do buildings, I want to do tech. We should try to focus on what A, you're good at, and what B, the kinds of things that you want to do. If you have a bunch of stuff that's technical in your portfolio, but all you want to do is draw people, you're going to have a lot of work getting offered to you drawing mecha and buildings and guns and armor and things that maybe you don't really particularly like drawing. So it's good to try to know the audience and get feedback from people that are not in your direct circle. I love going to conventions for this and just saying, hey, you have a second to look at my portfolio. If you ever come to me for that, I will make time. I may not have time at that second, but I will make time. I set up meetings. James knows this. I end up setting up meetings for the entirety of GenCon last year to look at portfolios. If anybody wants me to look at their portfolio, I think you can just put your email address in the chat, and I can get a screen capture of that from Simon at the end. The third thing is, you want to focus and organize your portfolio. So you want to make sure that you understand your own skill set, and you put things in there that really enhance that skill set. If you're into drawing anthropomorphic animals, and that's the thing that you're super good at, you can give them that edge that's somehow believable and real. Make sure that you have a lot of that stuff in your portfolio, especially if it's something you want to draw. Present your very best pieces first. So this is all about the physical portfolio, right? You don't want to have your best pieces, if you're still looking at my screen, you don't want to end up putting your best pieces way down here at the bottom, right? You want to make sure that the first thing that I see, or any art director sees, are the absolutely best pieces that show off your skills in a really good way. Because sometimes you have 3 seconds. I mean, I tend to take a little bit longer looking at portfolios, because I like to pick out a few pieces of the portfolio that I really like. And I like to talk about those when I reply about a portfolio submission. But not everyone has that kind of time. And so you may have 3 to 5 seconds to get a hold of somebody where they look at it and go, nope, wrong style. So you want to make sure that what's up at the top is reflective of your current skill levels. Always kill your darlings, of course. We talked about that. And make sure your contact info is somewhere, and then check your email. I know that seems silly that I have to say, but I I run across a lot of portfolios that have no contact information, or they have contact information that they don't ever check. So then it becomes I give three emails and then I move on to the next person. And sometimes an art director will just give a day. That's all the time they got. So you have to make sure that you're on top of your email and your contact areas as much as possible. And do have an email address available. It's super difficult to try to contact someone through Instagram, for instance, because then I, as an art director, have to check my Instagram, my Facebook, my, Reddit, everywhere in the world in order to get a contact, to get a reply email. So have an email that's just strictly for your business stuff. You'll thank yourself later because you'll be able to find things easier.
So you can set up if you when I worked with art students at Triangulate, a lot of them were not checking that second email that they had made during art school uh, for this purpose, for this project, to do the exact thing uh, that was just asked for.
Yeah,
You can set up a forwarding thing to just forward everything that goes from that business email to your personal, and
yeah. They're
then
tools.
it's
They're definitely
just,
tools.
I mean, check your email in general, and you'll already have done it.
Email seems like a really outdated mode of communication sometimes, but that is how art direction goes these days. It all happens over email because we can write as long of an email as we want. We can keep track of it with searches so we can find it by title, etc. So unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with. Um, I would say the next thing is to never stop working. Do personal work, challenge yourself, but also never stop resting. Find reasons to laugh, look for joy. There is this weird idea in the world that art comes from a place of misery. Oh, I was inspired to do artwork because my girlfriend left me, or I didn't get my paycheck, whatever it is. The truth is that is not always true. Sometimes those feelings can really inspire us, but most of the time when I've been doing artwork, because I do artwork as well, um, I can't work if I'm super overwrought with angsty emotions, right? I can't. It's the only time in the world that my creative juices just stop. So it is really good. Neil Branquino is one of the artists that works quite well, quite a lot on cyberpunk. He goes for this daily walk every day and he takes pictures of the stuff he sees. And sometimes you think you're walking along and you think it's just this mundane thing, but he will see a pattern in a sidewalk mud puddle and just stop and take a picture of it, post it on his Facebook. He gives himself an opportunity to find his zen. And he is a working artist. He needs to work to make a living. So there's always time. You can always make time to find your joy. Okie dokie. All of that, and I am going to get started on the first portfolio, which is Martina Fakova. Martina Fakova also does artwork for Magic the Gathering as well as Gwent and us, as you can see here from the Witcher's Journal. And I wanted to go over her portfolio because she has what I would call an ideal portfolio. She's been working for a while, but she's not as prolific as Anna was. So she went through her portfolio actually quite recently and she killed her darlings. She went through and took out the pieces that just were not enhancing her skill set. And I love how tight she's made it. She's definitely got, as you can see, what I would call her is a master of light. The way she uses light in her pieces is unbelievable. I'm going to click on this one. We've seen this one, I'm sure, from the cover, but you can see the light is pretty much a character. She's got 2 points of light coming in from two different directions, from the back here and from the side. There's clearly some kind of a big window or door open over here. I would definitely go through your portfolio and tighten it down. If you're newer to doing artwork, say you have, 5 years of experience or less, this is vital. It's vital to understand what you want to work on when I come to your portfolio. I don't want to see, a figure and then like a really technical drawing of a gun and then, a logo and then another figure, because I don't know what you want to do. If you've only got 10 pieces of artwork that you can show, you should definitely focus it on what you want, what people want to see. You can also, what I love about ArtStation is you can also do sort of these folders. And she has her separated out by what is an illustration and then just everything that she's got. So it's a, whoops, sorry about that. Internet connection is slow. It's a very good way to show your work. I would also say you can get away with as few as 4 pieces of artwork. I probably wouldn't go less than 4, but if you've got 4 good pieces of artwork that you are happy with, that you've vetted through friends, go with it. Get your portfolio set up. That's all you need. Great. Let's see. Do you have anything you wanted to add about Martina?
No,
Okay.
I just think it does show exactly what you just said. If you want to get one kind of work, have your portfolio be that kind of work. Don't
Yeah.
don't make an art director looking at it guess what you're good at.
So yeah, so there one of the things I love about her is because I've talked to her a lot, I know that from personal experience that she does a lot of personal work. She doesn't always put it up on her portfolio site, but she does a lot of personal work. It isn't necessarily for a company, so she's always working. She also mentors, even at the stage that she's at, which isn't quite as prolific as Anna, but she's been around a while and she teaches what she knows. So she's always doing little workshops. And I also know she takes time off. Those 3 things combine to make her a really great artist. All right, I'm going to go look at Kai Carpenter. So Kai is a traditional artist. I know these are rare these days, but it's if you're doing traditional work, what you need to learn isn't necessarily how to work digitally. You don't need to learn to work digitally, but you do need to learn how to photograph your work so that you can make a large enough copy of it so that somebody who is working in print can print it. It has to be a minimum of 300 DPI. Cameras, you can find lower end cameras now that lower end to mid range cameras now that will take a large enough photograph for that, but you should definitely do the research about it before you purchase a camera. And then you need to learn the difference, no matter what kind of artwork you're doing, between CMYK and RGB. It's super important to know those 2 skills and to differentiate them. CMYK is for print. RGB tends to be more for digital and video games and things like that. If you print something that is RGB, then it will change the colors. And sometimes those color changes are subtle. Sometimes they're not so subtle. So please understand the difference between those 2 things. It will go a long way. What I like about his portfolio site is that he's put his fine art first, but his fine art is also has a bent toward the fantastic. And that's the kind of work he wants to do. So he is still promoting work in the front of his portfolio that is what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. So you can see definitely who he is as an artist in this work. His portfolio is well organized. If you look over here, he organizes it a little bit differently other than by topic. He organizes it by product type. The Llewellyn astrology calendar is a very well-known calendar. People tend to purchase it for the artwork. So he's put that first. He's given us a 2020, so you can definitely see that he's got some current, things that he's done this year, and they all have a theme as well, which I think is wonderful.
That's really
And then, yeah, I love that piece. He's done work for DC Comics. He did work for the national parks. Now, what I love about this is he doesn't necessarily want to do ad work, but he's got it in here in a separate area. So if you're interested in hiring him to do some kind of, more of an advertisement kind of work, you can get him to do that for you. The third one that I want to look at is our friends at Badminton Studios. Let me just close these other 2. So Badminton Studios does artwork. It's a pair of gentlemen who work together out of Malaysia, and they do quite a bit of artwork for all different types of things. But what I really thought was interesting about their art was the way they did the labeling. So you can kind of, just like in ArtStation, you can kind of hover over and see exactly what that was for. They've got it switched because they have a dual purpose. Character design, like you see here, And then they've also got just regular illustrations like you see here. So it's well organized. That's a really good thing for an art director to be able to come in and look at it. They explain things very well. So if we go into this piece, if you really want to know more about it, they've actually done some writing here about it. So you can take a look. And I like to go to the artists' other places, Bad Moon at Instagram and such, and I like to follow them on the other areas where they have contact. But you can see, and you can see not only what they did, but usually they will have, oh, there it is. Yep, they have something in there about whom they did it for and the art director working on it, which I've never seen before, but I really appreciate that. And then they have excellent theming. So you can get a feel of who they are by looking at their portfolio. Incidentally, I tend to hire these guys for a lot of action-oriented shots because they're very good at the action. And that's a skill that you don't find as often online. Do you want to say anything about Bad Moon's work here?
No, I mean, it's been fantastic working with them. Um, and I think they've got some new stuff in Book of Tales coming out.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
That
they
was a
do.
great experience. They're, I mean, they're very professional, and
Yeah, they
I
take feedback very well.
it's true. Um, Another cool thing is on that illustration page when they had the inquiries email, that setting up your email, like even if you're a smaller like creator, setting up your email as inquiries at the name of a studio.com is that is it makes you look like a much, more it'd be a really good way to look professional online.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a really good look. That's all I'm saying.
One of the things I really enjoy about this portfolio is they've got their resume link right here. And it's really good to have some kind of a resume somewhere in even if you have an art station, there's a place to do an about. And people have taken the about page and just listed off all the companies they've worked for. And that's super helpful. I've actually found artists that already work for companies that I'm doing art direction for that they worked for them in the past. I'm like, oh, they already worked for Wizards or whomever, right? So it's really good to see that and then organize that resume well so that the art director can easily see a list. I don't necessarily have time to read paragraphs of things sometimes, but I can read a list. These are their skills. Here's their client list. Here's authors they've worked for. Very easy to kind of glean and sort out if somebody's in a hurry. What you might be getting is art directors tend to be pretty overworked. So we don't have a lot of time to go through little bits of text and things and to go searching. We're not going to go searching through somebody's portfolio to find what we need. Most of the time, we're going to just go to the next one because we can't figure out what's going on there. It's sad, but it happens. Next one I'd like to talk about is Mr. Adrian Mark. So Adrian is a bit of an exception. The way he has his portfolio set up, I like what he did here, that he really wants to do cyberpunk art. He loves it. When I contacted him, he said, I'm a fan. All I ever wanted to do was cyberpunk art. Let's do this. So he recently separated his portfolio into two links, one for all, which is everything, obviously, and one for just the cyberpunk focused stuff. What I love about this is it looks almost as if he's a little bit scattered in his focus. But in fact, what I see when I look at this portfolio is he's technical. When I say technical, I mean like the turret, the vehicle design. He's got character design, right? But it's really about the armor. It's not really about the character. And I love this piece. So when I look at his work, I am looking for his technical skill, and that's what he's super good at. He's also very good at logos, and he did these character designs for us. So he's got some skills that I've uncovered over time. But the first thing I hired him for was basically to do this. And his portfolio reflected that to me. So I could easily go in there and see, hey man, this gentleman has some real go-getter technical skills. It's fantastic. let me just take a look at my notes because I may have, yeah, focus on tech. He tabbed it with just 2 tabs. So you can make several folders. I've seen people with folders all the way across. And I have seen people with just, when you go to their page on ArtStation, they just have the folder showing with one piece of key artwork representing that folder. And that's totally fine. That's totally, that's an absolutely good way to do it. Especially if you have a couple of different skills that you're sort of trying to show off. But you'll notice he does do logo design. He doesn't have any of that on here because that's not what he primarily wants to do. He's done a ton of logos for us, though, I'll tell you that. He's very quick when he responds. He definitely checks his email every day. I never have to wait on him. If I've never not heard from him for a few days, if I send him a message that says, hey, how's it going? He's always Johnny on the spot with the email, and he makes sure that he gets that to us really quickly. It's key. I can't even stress that enough. It's very key. I love this portfolio. I think he did a really nice job on it. It's easy for me to look through.
I think it feels like all we're talking about is checking your email today.
I know, right? I'm so sorry. I've had a huge problem with that lately.
The funny part is it probably really is that important.
It's one of those things that you feel like, well, I shouldn't really have to say it, but yeah. So yeah, there's more to it than checking your email, but that is a big part of it.
I want to say, oh, this piece is fantastic. This piece is fantastic about all these things, but I feel like it's pretty self-evident when you look at it. So
right.
I need to tell you that red is red, blue is blue.
Yeah. You know, I could actually go into a little more detail about a couple of the pieces, though, because I think it's really important.
Good idea. Let's get it out
When
of the
you're
system.
thinking about artwork. So he did this as a cutout for us, what I call an avatar. So it would generally have no background on it. It will appear in the book with no background on it. But he created this background to show off our weaponry. And he decided to use this to show it to us, and that's fine. He also gave us copies without that background, so that was good. Details. So when you are creating a piece of artwork, it's really important to think about it from all the way from the skyline, what is showing in the background. This isn't a good example of that. All the way from the skyline forward. Here's a good example. So he's thought about this, what's going on in the background. There's a lot of thought going into this, what's happening here. The rocks have been designed so that you get a lot of detail out of them. There isn't a square inch on a piece of artwork that isn't important or dead, because there's the contrast of sort of the blank space with the action pieces, but that blank space provides a service. That kind of open space brings our eye to the action. And if you look at the pieces with a psychology in mind of how we look at artwork, we are going to look at the places in the artwork that have the most contrast first, and our eye will be drawn around the artwork. So I have 2 different ways I look at this piece. I look at it, if I'm looking at it for the background, my eye gets drawn from here all the way around in a spiral. So I see the entire piece of artwork. If I'm looking at it because I'm looking for figures, my eye starts obviously with the woman, and it actually kind of does the same thing. It kind of spirals out for me. It's really good to think about how these pieces look, especially since people are looking at them online. They might be looking at them on small screens like this. I generally don't shop for art on my phone, but I have been known to when I've been busy doing something else, waiting at the doctor or something like that, right? So you want to make sure that they look like that they have a good psychology to them to draw the viewer's eye through it. And then considering every inch of the piece. It's not just a texture that's on there. There's a changing texture that goes all the way back on the ground, etc. And we'll look at more, a little bit more of that in the next portfolio too. And the next one is Eventual. Eve is from Switzerland, and she has a very different aesthetic, which is one of the things I loved about her cyberpunk art. There's only one piece here that I feel is like a little bit, it's a little disruptive to the eye, but she wants to start getting into doing this kind of video trailer stuff. So she's got that in there very prominently so she can get more work doing that. It's a skill that's a little bit rare, so she probably will be getting some work because that's a really great piece.
It's a really good mech.
Yeah.
Well, really cool power armor.
So she is a master of negative space. What you see in this piece is the, can you see this well? Let me make this full screen. What you see in this piece is the figure, obviously, but all of this negative space is informing the eye about the figure. She's very good at being able to understand how we are visually going to feel about a piece of artwork. What's great about this portfolio, and I urge you to take some time with her if you have the time to do so. What's great about this portfolio is that it's her. It's all her. You would be able to look at any piece of artwork from anywhere in the world and you would know it was hers. And that is a difficult skill to get a hold of, but she knows her voice. And she's definitely picked up all of this negative space in this piece. This is almost negative space because it's sort of muted, but there's some action going on here. The action is so tiny. The only thing the eye really notices are these figures because they're the largest active spaces that don't have the teeny tiny bit of, and she's even done that with the robotic looking figure, the man in armor that's behind her. She's made this figure definitely the central part of the piece. And then psychologically, your eye is spiraling around to look at the entire piece of artwork. So she's chosen her pieces very carefully, and she's found the exact right crop for them so that when I, as an art director, pop in here, oh my, okay, yes, I understand immediately what she's about. I don't have to wonder what she's good at. She's definitely doing some artwork for us. What I love about it, you can feel who she is from this portfolio, and her style is consistent all the way through. She's added new pieces since I was in here last week, so she's definitely always working and challenging herself to create pieces that are a little off from what her normal style is, but you still feel like they're hers, like this piece. She is not afraid to study the masters. Just because it's illustration doesn't mean you can't study, the masters and look at them to understand how a good piece of artwork is arranged. And there are masters from history that did illustration. A lot of it is advertising, but it's really great to take a look at and study. All right, I'm going to go on to Angelina Stroganova. Angelina is a very different aesthetic, but you get a real feeling for her action when you're going through her portfolio. I see that she has recently added quite a few of these sort of more landscape types of pieces, and that's something that she would like to start getting into, like this one here. I think this is just so much fun.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's just like you want to
I
know
love
more
the
about this
skull.
world, right?
I want to know about the skull.
Right. What's that giant skull doing there? Is that a person or what? Yeah, so she is, again, one of the pieces I want to show off of her. So this was in our Jumpstart kit. So what is a very good thing for me personally as an art director, if you're trying to get my attention, unless you're a character designer, I don't want to see just a guy in dead space. I want to see the guy, gal, or non-binary person in a world. I want to understand that there is more of the world outside of the bounds of this piece of artwork. I don't really care about a guy standing there unless it's just a character, like a character design or something to that effect. The world is actually a character in these pieces that I tend to be more attracted to. And the reason that is, I want a player to look at this and be drawn into the whole world, and to also feel like there's more to this world, that they themselves as a character could jump into this piece of art run around the streets, or, go to the strip club that's back here, whatever it is. I want them to feel like they are getting an understanding of what the world is. I've been coining the phrase for a while, everyday cyberpunk. We have a few pieces going into the core book coming up, or one of them is just a guy and his son doing dishes. But what you get to see in that piece is how a kitchen 30 years from now is going to be laid out. In the background of the piece, there's like a water garden, kind of like a little water garden of plants and vegetables that they're growing inside, because obviously they won't have the ability to grow outside if they're in a small flat or something like that. And it's just a man and his son doing the dishes, and there's different little kind of futuristic tools for doing that in the piece. Those kinds of pieces really appeal to me. I absolutely love these action pieces. I think they're dynamic for getting the players excited, but also, what does it look like to just live your everyday life, to take a nap, to go to the park, to be at the grocery store? What do those things look like? I want to see that. And you can also, if you're sending email to an art director and you want to get their attention specifically, you can include your portfolio link, of course, but you can also take a couple of pieces from your portfolio. Don't get carried away. I wouldn't do more than 3 to 5. And you can attach those to the email so they can see the specific pieces you're wanting them to look at. What I would not suggest is going into your art portfolio, clicking on I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan. I'm sorry, guys, but this piece is awesome. Clicking on a link, copying it and pasting it into the email and saying, these are the ones I want you to look at. That is super time consuming. If I've got my Gmail account open and you've sent links, if you've sent pictures at the bottom, I can literally scroll down and just see those real quick and see if it's something that I'm interested in. But the
I
links
have a
thing,
question.
pain in the butt. Go ahead.
I have a question, Jay. Would it matter in an email, that particular email, we'll role play for a second, that you're sent, if they put enough images that it has to be downloaded as a Google Drive link, like you go above the MB, would you click that Google Drive link, or would you be
I,
like, gosh, I really wish that it was just in the email?
I would not. Thank you for bringing that up. That's really great. Try not to send portfolio pieces that are so big that I have to download them or go to a link, because my email address is public and people could send me anything, right? I could get a virus on my computer. Any number of things could happen. So I generally tend not to download pictures. I don't tend to open them either. What I tend to do is look at the little thumbnail that's at the bottom of my email, which is large enough that I can kind of see what's going on. And if I am interested in it, I will find that piece of artwork in their portfolio.
So I guess composition is very important because they're going to be seeing it smaller.
Right. Composition is very important. And even with this, with
Oh,
ArtStation, with these nice big juicy thumbnails, there's still, you can see how the artist has gone through and cropped them to make sure that they get the most attention.
that skull one on Stroganova's page right there is like the best crop I've seen out of all these.
It's really fun, isn't it?
It's like, I don't know. I'm almost clickbaited. I'm
Right. I am also going to go back to Anna Padadorna's uh, ArtStation, because I want to talk a little bit about worlds in the background some more. And then I would like to open it up for questions because we're getting close to that time. So Anna is the master of figures, but she never forgets that the background parts, the background elements of her art piece are really important. This is amazing. This wouldn't even be nearly as strong of a piece without this red. I don't even know what's going on here. You guys would know if you play Gwent more than I do. You probably know what this card does, but all of this red explosive stuff going on, and then the little red eyes in the ball bring this piece together and make it super, super good and likable. And I can see that she's got some skills, even though these are kind of blurry elements. She's got skill on how to lay out a piece of artwork to make it good, to make it fun. Yeah, I think we could probably open this up for questions now, if there are any questions. James, do you see questions?
I can't see the chat.
Oh, maybe that's Simon.
I don't have a link to that right now, but
Oh my goodness.
maybe, I don't know.
Great.
Oh no.
He did indeed. James, since I'm going to continue talking about some artwork stuff, would you mind texting Jay Gray? He is online right now. He may even be in this chat. so,
Hey, Jay, if you can hear me, call me.
so I'm just gonna. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm
I'm
just gonna
just,
look at.
it'd be a lot faster if I called him and times
Oh
would be
yeah,
up.
good idea.
So
Call. What kind of a monster calls people?
on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yes.
Sunday. You don't even know what day it is. That's fantastic.
Oh crap.
I was going to talk a little bit about this piece because it really helps to show levels. So you can see there's a far back background here that's kind of like negative space with the moon and everything. There's this layer, then we come upon the owl, right? And the owl has several different layers with his wings going back behind him and the tail coming forward. And then you can see this amazing talon. And here is the back of the squirrel coming forward and all the way to the front. And here we are in the foreground with a little bit of blur. I'm not necessarily crazy about the blur thing. It's kind of a popular thing to do right now, but it looks really good in here. I think she had a great use of it.
I got some questions. I figured it
Yes.
out. I
Oh,
found the link.
great.
I have, we've only got a couple of questions, it looks like,
That's great.
so far. So,
Mhm.
there are timestamps too. So let's see. We could do first in, first out.
Whatever you like. I'll get to all of them.
Well, all right. First off, we have a question from Lynette, and their question is, on ArtStation, it allows for groupings of pictures, where one picture on the main page of your portfolio can be linked to several more. Do you think that is a good idea to do versus putting everything out on the main page? I
I
think you
do.
touched
I
on.
do that. So actually, what I didn't do is look at my portfolio here. Actually, it would be here. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. I didn't plan to open mine. This is an art director portfolio, so it's not really what I'd say like a normal artist portfolio. But I have done folders, and I've done folders for the two projects that are most current. I'll probably end up with all of my projects on here at some point. Selling for art direction is a little different than putting yourself out there for art, most certainly. And every one of the pieces of artwork in these folders is created for, it has the name of the artist and the publication and the company. So there's never a question that I did this artwork myself. I'm super paranoid that someone's going to be like, wait, that's mine. Why is it on your portfolio? But I was very careful. I asked my artists about it and they were good with it. So um, I don't think this is the best way for you to put your portfolio out there as an artist. I think that this limits you to, now I'm an artist, I'm in a hurry, I have to look at 25 portfolios today. Now I've got to click into each one to figure out see if I can figure out what it is you're good at. I prefer it better to be set up the way Adrian maybe had his, where he's got these links here. That's, I think, a better way to set this up with the link system up at the top. And you can link it. You can set up links that are, you would put 10 up here if you wanted to. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't go more than like 3 to 5, but yeah, that would be probably a better use of your time, because now I can just land on this page and I can see immediately, oh, okay, yeah. And now I'm a little more interested in a couple of pieces. I'm going to click on, right?
All right. Ready for the next question?
Indeed, I am.
Let's continue our quiz show. This one comes from Rat, which I'm going to assume is their uh, name of choice here. Um, Rat asks, do you have any advice? These are a couple of questions. They're all connected, so I'm just going to go through the whole thing.
Sure.
Um, they say, do you have any advice for a starting artist regarding portfolios? Uh, what to do when you have a few art pieces and where the quality varies so much since you're learning? Um, when do you know how to switch out old pieces for new ones? Is it better to have, say, 2 to 3 really polished pieces or a whole lot of different ones to show the range of things you can do? In a bigger industry, in parentheses, after this, versus like commissions on Twitter, do you think there's a way for colorblind artists to thrive? I Finally, I know it's a big one and probably not exactly related to portfolios, but I'd love to get your advice on how to price your art. Um, so immediately, I have one thing to put on this, and it is I remember I can definitely tell if the art on your art portfolio is a project you had during art school. I remember being able to, I had like a, it was just very clear to me. That was, I think maybe if you could talk about how you feel about when you can tell that
Yeah.
as well, that might help this person.
I don't think there is anything wrong with having a project from art school in your portfolio if you can look at it and get some other people to look at it objectively and see that it is a good piece of art. I don't think there's a problem with it. But if your piece from your art school days is on your portfolio and it looks completely different because say it was like a group project, or I mean I know you get forced to do all that kind of stuff, right? And it's got a whole different look, feel, aesthetic to everything else that's on your portfolio. Kill your darlings, get rid of it. It's just not worth it to, you could make a tag on here that's I guess you could probably put a tag on here that's like sentimental pieces or something like that, but it's always going to show in your all. You can't get rid of the all, unfortunately, in your portfolio on here. um, in terms of being a new artist, it is better to have 3 to 5 really strong pieces than it is to have 20 pieces showing 20 different things that you can do. If I see that you've got like I was talking about Adrian, he spent years and years working on uh, business logos. That's how he got his start, I think. He worked on a lot of business logos and did a ton of logo work and collateral work for companies. You do not see a single logo that's just a logo design on here because he doesn't want to do that. That's not what fuels him and gives him joy in his work. So he didn't put it on here. It's a skill he has, and he let us know that it was something he could do, and he enjoys doing it for us once in a while, but he doesn't focus on that. Um, so make sure that you're focusing your pieces on the stuff that you want to do and the stuff that you're good at, and get good at the stuff you want to do. I forgot to mention the biggest pet peeve I have on looking at art portfolios in this modern day is that people are doing a lot of photography collage work. And sometimes the photography collage work is really good, but it's obviously photography collage work. If you want to be an illustrator, learn to draw. Draw every day. Never think you already know how to draw. Oh, I'm already good at it. No, you will always learn something. I can't stress this enough. I can't put a photography collage into a book. I can't. It's illegal. It's going to get us sued. Even if you took the pictures, I'm going to have model releases for the people who are in them. It's just, there might be a logo somewhere on a sign in a city that, is copyrighted. I can't do it. I need to have original drawn pieces of artwork and no likenesses of faces or people that look like anyone living or dead, right? So it's better to learn to draw. If you don't know how to draw, just jump in and start learning. I love drawing, and I think it should be taught in schools everywhere. So the other part was the pricing. When I have been approached by artists and I like their work and end up assigning work to them, I tell them what we're offering. And if they're not happy with the price, they can definitely ask for a little more money. And sometimes I'm able to do that. But I will upfront just say, hey, what's your availability? You write back, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to do this work. What you got for me? I'll send you an art script, and it will have in the art script payment. We are offering $500 for this piece or whatever it is. And then it's up to you to decide if that's enough for you to sell the piece of artwork. I have seen companies paying, so 2D work for small game companies like ours in the paper game industry is a very different animal than 3D work in the digital game industry. And that's true for writers, that's true for people who do, well, coding. We don't really code in books, but people who do design work, it's very, very different. They pay more, they're able to pay more. Our audiences are smaller, we pay a little bit less. I've seen people on average anywhere from 300 to $1,500 for a full piece of artwork, which would be an 8.5 by 11-inch size of artwork. So if you want to look at that, and make sure that you're getting paid somewhere in that range. I know that's a huge range, but a lot of things. It depends on the complexity of the piece. It depends on, the experience of the artist, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to look at that price range and sort of price yourself accordingly. But also try to figure out average times to do a piece of artwork. This is going to take you some time. And decide, what do I want to get paid per hour in a reasonable sense, right? Like everybody wants to be paid $1,000 an hour, but that's clearly not reasonable and you're not going to get that price. So you have to look at the market value and then decide from that what is being paid for artwork, and decide whether or not, how much money you want to be paid per hour. It takes approximately 10 hours to do an average detailed piece that's 8.5 by 11, and then charge accordingly.
Okay. I
Pieces
got
that are
two.
in your, one more thing, pieces that are in your portfolio already, if an artist comes to you and asks to purchase them, they're probably going to offer you a little bit less than they would if you were having to make that. But a lot of artists kind of think of that as found money. Like, oh, well, I was just sitting there in my portfolio. Like, I got to make a little money on the side on this. So then you can decide how much you want to make on that, but keeping in mind that that tends to be a little bit lower offering. Please go ahead, James.
Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions that are pretty similar to stuff we just talked about. So I'm going to skip over those. I apologize if you asked a question, but you probably just got your answer in some form. So I am going to make sure we can get to the most varied content that we can to help the most people that didn't ask questions yet still have these questions in their mind.
Sounds good.
We have the next one down is we have a, how do you keep making art when you're surrounded by rejection and the world going through this hard time? How do you keep yourself motivated? We have it's a hard question. It's a hard question.
It's a really hard question, and it wouldn't matter if we were in COVID times or the end times, or happy times. That is always a really difficult thing to do. One of the things I like to do, and I mean, part of this, so I did freelance artwork and illustration for over a decade, and there were hard times. I'm not going to lie. I would have a booth at Comic-Con and sell prints and T-shirts and different things like that I would have, that I would make for that. I struggled a lot, but one of the things that I did was doing to keep your motivation and, really more importantly, your confidence up. Having a situation where you can mentor somebody else is huge. Also, having a situation where you can be mentored. You can mentor while you're being mentored. You can maybe, even if there's an artist that you admire, you can maybe approach them about doing some side work for them, whether, I've done that for people, whether they could pay me or not in that case, because I want that mentorship. The payment is the mentorship at that point, right? But sometimes those folks do actually have a budget to be able to pay as well if they're a larger artist like Echo Chernik or something like that, where they've got a steady income and a steady field. But that is one of the biggest ways that I have found to keep going. Also, doing those conventions, I know you can't do them right now physically, and I don't know how sales are really going for people with booths at these sort of online. Oh, kitty, sorry, kitty.
Hi, Wandering DM's cat.
Yeah, online conventions. But I would look into opportunities to do those kind of sales because I would come out of Emerald City Comic Con, for instance, completely exhausted, but with, you know, 4 months worth of bills paid in the future, right? Because of the money that I earned on that. And that 4 months worth of bills just completely reflected in some confidence, like, okay, I'm not that bad, right? Things aren't that bad for me. It's actually okay. So those kinds of opportunities are really important as well. Oh, and the last thing on that is to work with another artist on a piece. Somebody you really like, a buddy or something. It's like, hey, let's do something together. Make it completely fun. Don't try to control it or be in charge of it. Just it's a free flow. Do some fun art things like that where you're working with other people. And you can do this online, right? You can, okay, I'm going to draw the figure. I want you to do the background, right? You can put something together like that that's easy on your heart and nerves. And the last thing was the last thing I talked about in my list of things, never stop resting. So, meaning find other ways to find joy. Go out and photograph some flowers. Like, I know it's cheesy, but I love to photograph flowers. I'll go out and photograph a flower and it'll just get my mind off of everything. And I come back to my art and it feels like a new home to me.
All right. You think we got time for one more question?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Um, oh geez, it's hard to picture these last three left. I'm sorry if I didn't choose yours. Can you share what's one last big common mistake that you see a lot that maybe you haven't talked about or you've alluded to a little bit that just makes you cringe? We'll just end on a real positive note. Um, I'm sorry. Hopefully
I
it's helpful.
I think for me, it's people keeping pieces of artwork that just negate their skills. They keep a piece of artwork in their portfolio that negates the skills that they have because they're sentimental about it, or because they made it with their mom, or whatever it is. They did it in college and they thought they got an A on it, or they did it there was a first piece they did for a real big company like Wizards or something, and then it takes away from their portfolio. It takes away from their skill sets. I think that's probably the hardest thing. But I don't really look at people's portfolios and cringe, unless it's the photo collage thing, or the photo collage thing is hard. If they send me a portfolio and they and they want me to, they want us to hire them to do work for us, and they send us all they've got in there is photo collages together. mm, It's not bad. That's their style, but that's not going to work for us or for most companies.
Yeah, that's
So those are the
the
two
photo
things I
collage
would
thing.
say to look out for. Learn to draw, check your email, wash your face, wear your mask, you know.
All right, we're at 10. That's our end time, right, Simon?
Yeah. Sorry if we didn't get to any of your questions. If you want to send those in separately, I can do my best to answer them with, you know.
You can get one real quick by hitting if it's common to have an art director's contact information being made public.
Is it common?
Is it common?
It's common for an art director's not personal information, but an art director's email address and website and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say, my social security number should be vetted to the public or anything like that, nor should yours. And if you have a
Your
personal
your
email,
current location at any time, though.
oh no, that's if it's just saying like Seattle area, fine. But if it's saying my house, please tell me, because I get stalkers as a person of the female persuasion online. That is not uncommon.
Oh, maybe I should rethink my thoughts for the findanartdirector.com .go.
You mean like stalkandmurder.com, Geo? Yeah.
Just for art directors.
Oh, great. I don't feel targeted at all.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, you guys. I've really, really enjoyed talking about this. I feel like I may have rambled on a little bit about certain things and overly emphasized them, but definitely feel that they're important. So let us know what you thought. And thank you so much for tuning in. I had a lot of fun.
I had a great time too. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy
Thanks,
the rest of
Simon.
your
Take care.
GenCon. Thank you so much, Simon.
You're all